Lebanon's energy crisis has hit breaking point. Fuel shortages are now having catastrophic effects. Beirut is in near darkness at night. Some hospitals are on the brink of closure, and an explosion has taken the lives of more than 30 people trying to collect fuel. Imogen Kimber reports.
Imogen was one of the few hundred people that was trying to get fuel being distributed by the army when a tanker exploded in North Lebanon on Saturday night. Now he's in the burns unit of Geopolitical Hospital in Beirut.
I was on the top of the tank and my friends were around me. I heard a tick and I saw the fire, and then the tank exploded. All of my friends are dead and I am the only one alive. I am getting better, but I am devastated about my friends.
Dozens of people were killed in the explosion and almost 80 people injured. Many have horrific burn injuries.
Many of those patients are even at 85% of their body surface burned, which causes a very severe damage to the skin and muscles and exposes them to infections and noble organ failure like kidney, heart and brain damage.
It's unclear why the explosion took place. The army were distributing fuel it had confiscated from a warehouse where it was being stockpiled amid the worsening fuel crisis. Fuel imports have been subsidised by the government for years, but recently there's been no money to pay suppliers, and the fuel has stopped coming. It's meant petrol stations have had to ration fuel, causing enormous queues. Last week, the governor of the central bank announced that the subsidies were gone for good, but the situation only became more complicated.
So what happened last week is that he said that suddenly I'm going to remove subsidies, and people started going to those stations just to fill at the subsidized rate. Meanwhile, the stations stopped supplying the market.
While customers are desperate to fill up at the old, lower rate, fuel dealers want to wait to sell it at the new, higher rate. And everyone is confused as the government hasn't backed the decision of the central bank. There is a similar issue with diesel. With only a few hours of electricity being supplied by the government per day, the country's electricity comes almost entirely via diesel-fueled generators.
Today, whoever runs out, diesel generator runs out of fuel or diesel, he's turning off the generator. He's not able to buy the diesel in black market rates.
So diesel fuel won't be readily available, and even if it was, generators are not made to run for 20 hours a day. They're only meant for a short backup. This is a major issue at the Geopolitical Hospital, where Imogen and other burn victims are being treated.
Our hospital has generators of electricity which depend on fuel and on mazout. We have to secure them on a daily basis. It's a continuous fight. You cannot stay 1 minute without current because the patients would die.
The Lebanese parliament is expected to convene on Friday to discuss the crippling energy crisis, and it can't come soon enough. Imogen Kimber, TRT World, Beirut.
Let's get more on this now with Sami Nader in Beirut. He's the director of the Levant Institute for Strategic Affairs. Good to have you back on the program, Sami. Now, you and I have spoken about the fuel and petrol shortage in Lebanon quite extensively, but explain to us why there's a broader electricity shortage. That's forcing more and more people to rely on diesel generators. So why hasn't the country been able to produce electricity at a higher level?
Because simply Lebanon has no more the liquidity in order to buy this fuel at the international market rate because of the economic and financial crisis that is hitting the country very big. And this is partly due to the wrong energy policy that have been conducted for decades. Not to say years. Why? Because this commodity, which is the fuel, is subsidized. It's wrongly said that is subsidized because, in fact, today all the subsidy programs are are cash transfer to the poor. But here the subsidies were used to the advantage of the traders and the smugglers. And this is the big problem, that the central bank is subsidizing the the trade of fuel, and a big chunk of it is smuggled into Syria. Indirectly, the Lebanese central bank is subsidizing the consumption inside Syria. The price of a liter of fuel oil, it's 4 times more in Syria than it is in Lebanon. So, and for the only months of July last month, the amount of import of fuel oil, I mean, exceeded $900 million compared to Lebanon. This is huge. This is huge, and this is bleeding the country finances. So they reach a point now where they are using the obligatory reserves. That means this part of the reserves of Lebanese deposits in the bank in order to continue subsidizing. At this point, the central bank said, I can't anymore continue with this subsidy program. I can't anymore continue financing the government with this subsidy program. Things have to change. So better to remove the subsidy, to let this commodity be traded at the market price, and put in place the right support, the poverty support program, like cash transfer or others. However, do the Lebanese today, can they afford to buy this commodity at the international price in the middle of this crisis? This is another problem. This is why we're heading to a real social explosion, in my view, because when the prices of this commodity will increase, everything will increase.
That's right.
The bread, the price of the bread, the price
Sami,
of transportation.
Sorry to interrupt, because I want to ask you about an announcement by the Lebanese group Hezbollah. It's saying that it's organized Iranian fuel oil to be shipped from Iranian ports to arrive in Lebanon, perhaps within the next few hours. Does it really matter where fuel comes from right now, and what implications might this shipment have?
It does not. If we are in a perfect world, it does not. The fact is, will this quantity of fuel that is imported complicate the situation in Lebanon and put more hardship on the Lebanese, or the opposite? This will be a relief. Now, any direct import from Iran is subject to sanction. Do the Lebanese need to be sanctions? Already they are isolated from the rest of the world because of the policies of Hezbollah. They are at a point where they badly need the international support and IMF program. Does a move like this isolate more Lebanon, or will it pave the way for a solution? The way it's put, I think it will increase Lebanon isolation,
yes,
and it will put it at risk of American sanction at a moment where we do need the opposite. We need to rebuild trust with the international community, and let's say it very frankly, the only way for Lebanon out of this crisis is the program with the IMF, like something similar to what Turkey went through in the beginning of the year 2000 or the late 90s.
Okay, we will see if and when these oil shipments arrive from Iran. Sami Nader from the Levant Institute for Strategic Affairs, a pleasure as always. Thank you for that.